We are at a point in 2025 where we've distorted this thing so much that anybody who's watched college football this year would just simply tell you, watching all of the games, Miami is one of the 12 best teams in the country, clearly, physically. They've got something that feels a little professional, offensive line and defensive line. They've lost 2 games to Rhett Lashley, to 2 of the best coaches in Brom, and that's going to happen to Mario at least once a year. We didn't expect to happen twice, but we know that's going to happen to Mario at least once a year, and SMU and Louisville. Louisville gets a 4-interception game, 3 great interceptions. There's just no one who's watched college football this year who wouldn't look and say, I don't care what the computers say. Miami is clearly one of the 12 best teams in the country. It's obvious.
And Miami's offense looks way different. We knew we were fearful headed into that SMU game that you have your tendencies, you're pretty predictable, you're trying to win these games in close margins when you're the more talented team. Also absent from the national discussion was one of the worst officiated games that we've seen for a very poorly officiated conference. But I'm happy that we've got back-to-back 10-win seasons. Mario Cristobal has done what he set out to do, even though everybody that you would ask before the season is, it's got to be either playoffs or Charlotte. The fact that you're sitting at 10 wins and you're neither in the playoff nor in Charlotte is something worth criticizing, but it was a great season. A lot of people stuck their neck out over the last 4 weeks.
You're waving the white flag.
No, I'm not. No.
That sounds like you're waving the white flag.
What I'm saying is, welcome to the watch. You guys got it from here. I was ranting, raving, sticking my neck out, terrified that this team would fall on its face in November like they do every year. Mario Cristobal had my back. This team looks incredible. It's playing its best football. And now I'd much rather Dan Le Batard do the yelling and shouting. And Jonathan Zaslow, welcome to the party.
Did Chuck help out at all this weekend?
He did, from what I was told.
They learned their lesson. They learned their lesson. There was like a 3 or 4 minute stretch late in that game where Miami fans would have been rubbing their nipples listening to it. They were like, one of the best teams in the country, the eye test, this is the performance they needed. They were saying all the things that they didn't say last week.
Look, I will say a couple of things that I found interesting about the last couple of weeks of coverage. If you were listening to this show and listening to the end of that broadcast where poor Louis Riddick and Bob Wischusen had to descend into the muck, they've got an uninteresting game. Miami is dragging Pittsburgh by the neck around the field. What do we talk about? Oh, I know. Chuck will show that he's been influenced by Mike Ryan, and his co-conspirators, Lou Riddick, will be asked all sorts of questions that put Lou Riddick in the corner where both of them were saying, yeah, Miami's one of the best teams in the country, obviously, again and again. Louis Riddick is saying of Malachi Toney, he's saying, no, this is the best there is. He's like, this is the very best of special, the way that they're using this football player on the field. And you heard in the broadcast that Chuck and Lou Riddick had been bought and paid for by the Miami propaganda arm.
Or Miami just played better that game, and they're saying what they see.
No, that's not the way Chuck was talking a week ago. It is
they
not.
They looked like against Virginia Tech.
Okay, well, you said it, and it's not true. But they
didn't look great. Maybe not. I mean, somewhere in the middle between shit and great.
Again, I will just give you the stat again. There are 4 teams in the country that have won this many games by 17 plus. Those 4 teams are not Indiana. Indiana's not one of them. It's Ohio State, it's Texas Tech, it's Utah, and it's Miami. So on the full slate of whatever their schedule is, if you think it's that much weaker than Ohio State's or all those frauds in the SEC, it's not.
Am I wrong in thinking this is a apples to oranges comparison? But
apples to oranges.
This feels like the 2000 season where Miami lost to Washington but beat Florida State, but it was Florida State that ended up going to the national championship.
Totally
and lost.
different
What
system.
a memory.
No, this is the history of Roy. Roy's got it exactly right, of course. And Roy is sitting here saying, you were this upset 20 years ago, Dan. You cared like this 20 years ago. And it is the last time I cared about this because this is clearly a wrong. It's just
that year was the all-time bullshit.
But Zaz, when I simply say, okay, it's always been about judges and, voters and influence. I saw many years Nick Saban pleading on television, just running propaganda everywhere where Nick Saban, was doing interviews that I thought were beneath him because he realized that part of the job was this time of year, the way to get into the playoffs with judges is argue your way in. Get in the most old-fashioned way. Argue. So I saw Mario Cristobal with Mike Ryan in his ear. I saw Mario Cristobal. He gets the post-game interview, and he doesn't care what the question is. His only job here
I got TV time.
is to swagger in front of the microphones and say out of nowhere, no one asked him about Notre Dame. No one asked him about head-to-head. He just went straight in, and the only God-given American thing that I know about football is that head-to-head matters.
It would have been great if instead of actually letting her ask the question, he just took the microphone. Took the microphone, wrestling style.
He should have.
All right, my turn.
He practically did.
Mario's a big-time old-school 80s wrestling guy, too. He learned from the best.
Chris, do we have, I know our computers have been buffering. There have been some video. Okay, so that's not helpful to me now. Is Jeremy ready in the other room? Because Jeremy has been listening to us talk the entire time, lest you think that this will only be Miami bias. Roy, file that away. I want to come back to, yes, we've always been doing it this way, but this will be one of history's great wrongs when it comes to this program. It would have another championship if not for instant replay not yet being around when Cleveland Gary was fumbling at the goal line. Before Alabama, Miami was in the position that Alabama was, where they were the ones with all the pros.
Miami's legitimately got 3 national titles that they were boned out of.
We could probably say that about most big programs.
No, not 3. No, not one.
Notre Dame in
not there's a
93.
penalty flag in the air. Like just one call decides a championship. Not very often, but this is the best team I've seen since those teams. Last year's was not. It had the best player. Cam Ward made that the best offense. What I've seen from Miami this year has been championship good. I believe this team can beat anyone and also lose to a well-coached team that's a 2-touchdown favorite, as they did twice this year. But Jeremy has been eating it for weeks on the Miami subject, and Jeremy has had no room whatsoever to make the argument on behalf of everyone else. So I've told him, please, put your notes outside over there, and you tell me what you think when I can go to it. So he's been in this Kevin Spacey and Seven kind of manifesto stage of arguing the other side of this. Where am I wrong, Jeremy, on anything I've said over the course of these 25 minutes?
And how do you feel about the Kevin Spacey comparison?
I was going to say you're wrong on invoking Kevin Spacey's name. We could have done literally anything else. But look, there are 5 automatic qualifiers, right? You're going to have OSU, UGA, Texas Tech, Virginia, if they beat Duke, and then the winner of Tulane and North Texas. And then in terms of at-large bids, Dan, you tried to make the argument that Oklahoma doesn't deserve to be there over Miami. They have 2 losses. Those are to number 5 Ole Miss and number 14 Texas, with wins over number 10 Bama and Missouri, which I know how Mike Ryan feels about the AP. We don't even have to count number 25 Missouri, but they do have a top 10 win there. Better losses than Miami does, tougher schedule. When we're bidding for numbers 11 and 12, I think the first team that you have to mention, Dan, BYU. They have 1 loss this season. It's to number 5 Texas Tech. If they have a second loss, it'll be to the same team in their conference championship game because they actually made it to their conference championship game. They also have 2 top 25 wins, with wins over number 15 Utah and number 21 Arizona. So we have to include BYU.
We have to.
You have to include BYU. It would make no sense in terms of resume when you're looking at each and every one of these when you're nitpicking. Even if they lose to Texas Tech.
That's crazy.
2 losses, both to a top 5
They're
team.
going to get dragged by Texas
out.
Tech.
That's fine.
They're going to get dragged the same way they were last time. Texas Tech is a good deal better than BYU.
That's right. And I think Miami, you would make the argument, is a good deal better than SMU or Louisville, but they lost both of those games to unranked teams. I want you to look at the rest of these resumes here, Dan.
This Texas Tech team is the best Texas Tech team I've ever seen. It's better than anything that Michael Crabtree was doing at the top of when they were beating Texas. Like, this is the best Texas Tech team there's ever been, and they're going to drag BYU again. Anyway, continue.
Well, you're making the argument on behalf of BYU then, because if their loss is to a better team, if Texas Tech is maybe the best team in the country, the best Texas Tech team ever, those 2 losses to Texas Tech shouldn't knock you down so much. So to me, BYU is an obvious number 11 there. But when you look at the rest of these teams, you've got Miami. Now let's start looking at losses. Obviously, they have the head-to-head win over Notre Dame. But when you start looking at losses...
Hold on just a second. Let me influence you a little bit before you get going too much further. Here's Mario Cristobal getting a question after the game, ignoring it entirely, and just chirping Mike Ryan's thoughts into a microphone.
Well, the fact that this is a college football playoff team. I think we've all seen it. We know it. Proud of the way our guys came out, dominated from start to finish. And certainly we left a lot of points on the board as well. But, we're really starting to click. We're getting some guys healthy. We still didn't have our top corner back. He's going to be back in about a week. Our defensive tackle is still out. So we're looking at even getting way better here in the next couple weeks.
You didn't want to stump for your team until this game was over. For the selection committee watching today, what do you hope that they saw out of Miami football?
Complete dominance. A team that just we've got great players in all phases, and we're playing great football in all phases. And you know what? The best part about football, you get to settle it on the field, where head-to-head is always the number one criteria for anything regarding athletics and football.
I appreciate the time. Congratulations.
Go Kings.
No one asked him about that. It was good to see the floating head of Ed Hudak still protecting coaches. Let's put that up on the screen so people can see that. Ed Hudak has been doing this for coaches for a long time, protecting them from all people around them who might be scary. Look at that. That is the face of football for real. Yes, go ahead and do that close up because people do not know this. But look, Mario Cristobal always has Ed Hudak whispering things like
over
that
his shoulder
in his ear. Yes, look, that man has.
Hey, what's up with that question?
He protected Mario's coaches. That guy protected Mario's coaches. And that guy has been in his ear, and he's proud of Mario right there. Just went full.
You could tell the handshake that guy's got.
Oh, my God.
Rip your wrist clean off.
Put it on the poll at LeBatard Show. Will Ed Hudak rip your wrist clean off with a handshake? And he will. He's been law enforcement for this town. Do you know the scars that leaves? Protecting that program for 40 years. You know how many times Dennis Erickson had to be driven home? Ed Hudak has been protecting coaches in this market for 50 years. And Mario Cristobal did him proud with his team and his argument. But let's go back out to Jeremy to see if he can argue the other side of this.
Well, he's just looking at head-to-head, Dan. There are several other teams that qualify here. I already mentioned BYU should be the 11. You have Alabama. Now, they lost to FSU. That's a tough look. Their other loss to Oklahoma, they could end up with a third loss to Georgia in this scenario. It's going to be tough to overcome that, in my personal opinion, despite their 3 top 25 wins. But there's 2 teams you can look at here, Dan. Let's start with James Madison. Now, they have 1 loss this season. They will be a conference champion with 1 loss. That loss, Dan, to Louisville, a team that you all are trying to convince me is not a playoff eliminating loss for Miami, despite the fact that they also lost to unranked SMU. James Madison, as a conference champion with a dominant win over Old Dominion. Old Dominion, Dan, who beat Virginia Tech by 30-plus points, a win that Miami is trying to hold up as a great win over the last month, showing you the type of team that they are.
Keep it moving, Jeremy. Be a professional. The power went out, and you got to just keep going. You got to keep doing show. You got to keep Jeremy, like if we're on live television.
Jeremy, you know about being a professional?
The power went out, Jeremy.
I know about being a professional? Me.
James Madison is the argument you're going to make.
James Madison absolutely should be there over the University of Miami. But if you want to do it the other way, and not go based off of who's a conference champion, but go based off of who has the best wins, who's beat the best teams, who's actually shown that they can beat playoff teams, that's where you look at Texas. They have a win over number 7, Texas A&M, over number 8, Oklahoma, over number 13, Vanderbilt. Their losses coming to 2 automatic qualifiers in Ohio State and Georgia. There is the tough loss of Florida, but how do we stack up that Florida loss as compared to 2 unranked losses for Miami?
Jeremy, I don't think you heard me the first time I said this because I haven't heard something from you about Notre Dame yet. Did you hear him the first time he said it?
Head-to-head is always the number one criteria for anything regarding athletics and football.
Well, that's what I'm showing you,
You want to
Dan,
put James Madison in there, fine. Take Notre Dame out.
I don't have Notre Dame in there. I have BYU and James Madison as your final 2 teams getting an at-large bid.
You're not hearing
over
him.
Notre Dame, over Miami. Head-to-head is irrelevant if Notre Dame also doesn't make it.
Is never irrelevant.
Notre Dame doesn't make it.
You get one school named after a person. You get one school named after a person. Pick one. Brigham Young or James Madison. You can't put 2 schools named after a person.
Head-to-head
If Hudak could help Miami protect the ball, maybe they wouldn't be
Can
in
you
this situation.
put on the poll, Juju, at LeBatard Show, can you put 2 people in the playoffs named after a person? Two teams in the playoffs. Because this is James and Madison. Well, this is the other thing. Thank you for doing that again.
Head-to-head.
Do you realize that the only reason Mario Cristobal is not undefeated is because what he believes about football is right at his core is I'm going to try and run up the middle and I'm going to beat you
Head-to-head.
right up the middle with Fletcher.
Head-to-head.
I'm never going to notice that Pringle should be running. It should be Fletcher every time.
Head-to-head.
I'm going to hit you in the face mask.
Head-to-head.
Again, what you got?
Head-to-head.
What do you got, Rhett Lashley? I got this.
Head-to-head.